Okay, cool. Hi everyone. Let me just drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Audible to everyone? Oh, I guess chat is disabled. 1 second. Okay. Everyone able to hear me? Guys, am I audible? Yeah, Somnath. I'll be taking up some doubts initially. Remember the bug that we were having in the last class? Do you guys remember that bug that we were having in the last class? That Hibernate query bug? Oh man, I spent like 6 hours figuring out what happened. I've resolved that bug although. Yeah, I spent 6 hours. I did everything. I tried Gemini, I tried GPT, I Googled, I Stack Overflowed, I read so many docs. I still don't know why the issue came up, but I was able to resolve it. I'll tell you how. And I realized AI cannot replace software engineers too soon because कुछ चीजें तो भाई इंसानी दिमाग ही करता है. So I'll show you, but yeah, let's take up some questions first. In base class, we make abstract, but sir, in abstract class, we need to mention at least one abstract method. But in that class, we don't have. Somnath, are you coming from the world of C++? Somnath, do you have context around C++? Okay. There is no rule, as far as I know, that says that for an abstract class, you need to have at least one abstract method in Java. In C++, yes. But correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. We can just check. What is the criteria for making class app for, okay, or let's call it like this. Can abstract class in Java have only data members and no abstract methods? Somnath, are you able to see it? In C++ you have. C++ में होता है. If you go with C++, C++ में शायद ऐसा होता है. A pure abstract class cannot have data members or non-abstract member functions. है ना? ये होता है यार कई सारी लैंग्वेजेस में ना छोटे मोटे रूल्स इधर उधर हो जाते हैं और दिमाग बिल्कुल ऐसे हो जाता है. आई ऑल्सो फेस दिस प्रॉब्लम. मतलब आजकल एक तो C# लिखनी पड़ रही है. ओ भाई अलग ही वो जहर है. Hi Sanket, I'm getting null values for created at and updated at field. Can you repeat what step you performed to eliminate it? Pawan Patil, can you just quickly check? Can you just quickly check? Let I get this one from. Okay. If you go to your main service file, have you enabled @enable JP auditing? Have you done that? है ना? यही मेरे में भी यही वाला मिसिंग था. Okay. Any more questions, guys? Any more questions? Okay. So just give me 1 minute. So when I am running SQL query, I'm getting column name randomly, not in sequential manner. I don't think there is a problem of getting things randomly because eventually you're going to map it to the object, right? So don't worry about that, Somnath. Like in whatever order you get the data. That's the only thing that matters actually. Okay. So today is what, 17th, right? 16, 15, 14th. Okay, cool. Let's turn up the OBS. Okay, today we are going to talk about a very, very important concept with respect to interviews, right? A lot of time you guys will be asked this question somehow, somewhere. So let's talk about that. But before that, the interesting part. Okay, let me keep it here. Okay. One last minute. Okay. So in the last class, if you remember, this was what we were playing with, right? If you remember, this variable was ln, and we were trying to execute this query, right? Remember? Okay. Although I will formally introduce this thing also later, when we will talk about, we'll start implementing more heavy code. But if I run the application, and just FYI, if you go to the service here, then you can just copy this method, HQL find by ID and license, paste it here. Okay. Remember, this was the function. Currently, there is no option or anything. I'm just directly returning it. Now, what's going to happen is, if I run the code, it will throw an error, if you guys remember. Let's wait for it to build. अभी भी throw करेगा error 99%. ठीक है? See, it throwed an error, right? Okay. Let's change this variable name to anything else. Make it Sanket, make it say license, anything else. Just this much. Okay. And now if you will run the code, boom, working. So probably, yes, probably there might be a chance that ln might be some internal variable, some internal functionality might be conflicting with that. Although I was not able to find a documentation saying that ln is reserved for Hibernate or something, but this was the only problem that we were facing. All of the things that we were doing was absolutely correct. There was no problem with our code. We spent what, like 20 odd minutes, maybe more. And this was the only problem. And do you know how did I resolve it? Like, first of all, though, I Googled a lot. Like, I read so many Stack Overflow articles. After some time, I was not even able to get it. Then I did Gemini, irrelevant answers. I did ChatGPT. ChatGPT तो मुझे ही बोलने लग गया कि आप चेक करो, आप कुछ गलत तो नहीं कर रहे हो. भाई क्या है ये? फिर उसके बाद I started writing simple query. I thought कि let's not do filtering and everything. Let's just do select 2 columns from driver. That's it. Let's do that much. And that worked. And that worked. Interestingly. And then what I did, I then filtered by ID. That also worked. Then I filtered by license. That failed. So I thought, what might be the issue with license? Then I just randomly just changed the variable so that I can cleanly write it. And it worked in like a shot. So I spent too much time there, and it happens like, debugging is an art, I believe. Once I resolved it, I was like very frustrated, like कि भाई ये क्या है, इतना time waste हो गया मेरा. But then that's learning, right? That's learning. So that's part of learning. And you know what? You will also face a lot of these kind of issues, but you will only face it if you will try to implement stuff yourself. That is a catch. If you will not try to implement stuff yourself, you will not be able to actually do anything. Make sense? Make sense, guys? Okay, so now you know how you can actually set up this thing. I'm for now removing this query from here. I will formally also introduce it once we start with DTO and everything, but you know how to do it, right? You know how to do it. Okay, I can maybe just share this on Discord so that you guys have access to it, but later also we'll formally add it. Okay, I don't want to pollute the whole repo irrelevantly, but yeah, I'm not sure तुम में से कितने लोगों ने एफर्ट मारा था, but yeah. फॉर नेचुरल लॉगरिदम, ओह ओके। मतलब मेरे को कोई ऑफिशियल डॉक तो नहीं मिला, तुम्हारे पास कोई तुम्हें कोई डॉक मिला क्या यहाँ पे? एलन कोई रिजर्व्ड कीवर्ड है? हैव यू डिड यू फाइंड अ डॉक और समथिंग? बार्ड, अच्छा हाँ, मैंने ये उससे नहीं पूछा, मैंने जीपीटी से पूछा था कि एलन क्या कोई रिजर्व्ड कीवर्ड है, जीपीटी ने मना कर दिया। तो मे बी ऐसा हो सकता है कि रिसेंट वर्जन्स में आया हो, दैट्स व्हाई बार्ड हैज दैट इन्फॉर्मेशन बट जीपीटी डजंट हैव दैट इन्फॉर्मेशन। ठीक है, तो ये हो सकता है, बढ़िया। ln is a reserved keyword for logarithm, guys. So I've shared the query in the on the Discord, so you guys can take it from there. But yeah, nice debugging session. Thanks to Hibernate. Okay, we'll come back here and we'll remove the custom driver and everything. We'll later introduce all of this, but again, you have the concept now. So I will just delete it. Okay, and we'll just delete it from here as well. Okay, cool. There we go. Any questions as of now, guys? Any questions? Did you guys understand what was the issue? Like that variable name was a issue for us. That was a reserved keyword. Okay. Cool. Now let's continue our discussion. So we'll spend some more time in understanding a few things around databases and everything, and then mainly we'll start up the things. Okay. Now let's come back. Let's come back to this models. Okay. So one second. Okay. One more minute. How many of you guys started implementing that Quora app? How many of you guys started implementing that Quora application? How many of you guys have started implementing that, guys? I would highly, okay. I know you guys always need bribe to do that. Okay. So let's do one thing. Okay. The people who will complete the application in a good way and share me the link to their GitHub repo, right? I will be rewarding them with something, right? It might be a JetBrains subscription. It can be a nice small tech book or fiction book or something. But yeah, 2 people will try to reward. Okay. But for that, you have to complete all the requirements that I have given in the PDF. This is for your work only, guys, so that whatever we are discussing, you just don't forget that. Okay. When you will actually implement it yourself, no, then only you will get the main context. So please do that. Make sense? Just a minute. Okay, cool. Chalo, so 2 people reward online. Okay, makes sense. Now, and what we can actually do is, once you guys have made your own effort, maybe I can do a live stream on YouTube or something. You guys can join me there, and maybe that assignment I will maybe solve in a live stream. So I'll get some YouTube content also. You'll get your assignment solution also. Make sense? Like, of course, वहाँ पे हम लोग basics नहीं पढ़ रहे होंगे. मैं one shot में बस features implement करता जाऊँगा, and you guys can check it out. How about that? Got it? But you have a deadline. Max by Sunday. ठीक है? तो उस टाइम तुम देख पाओगे कि मुझे भी कोई एरर्स आ रही हैं, तो हाउ आई एम रिजॉल्विंग, मैं कितना गूगल कर रहा हूँ, व्हाट आई एम checking the documentations for कैसी queries I'm writing. You can get a hang of it. ठीक लग रहा है ना? चलो, cool. Let's resume, guys. So if you remember, we talked about fetch mode and everything, right? Fetch type. Okay. So so there is something called as fetch mode in Hibernate. Okay. If I show you this one, fetch mode. Okay, so we're going to start talking about this fetch mode. This is very, very interesting. But for that, I would like to show you something. Okay. So let's say there is a scenario. Okay, so I'll give you a problem, and this is a very, very famous interview question. So incoming is a very famous interview question that is asked a lot of times for SD 1, 2, 3, all division of roles, because this kind of problem actually shows that how much amount of work you have done in backend. There are these are some very traditional problems and have some very elegant solutions altogether. But knowledge of them is something that very less people have. If you will actually go somewhere and randomly ask your college mates, maybe your colleagues, there is a highly likely chance they won't be able to answer the question properly. They might be having some context, and college students so definitely don't even have a context. What is the problem? Let me give you the problem first. Okay. So the problem is that, let's say we have an API. We have an API, right, which looks something like this. So how the API looks like is, let's say it's a GET request. We'll say slash API slash v1 slash, let's say bookings slash bookings. Okay. And in the request body, okay. And let's do one thing. We can say slash bookings, and let's not just say slash bookings. We'll say slash drivers slash bookings. Okay. And in the request body, what we are going to have is, we are going to send a JSON payload. Inside this JSON payload, we are going to have driver IDs as a parameter, which is an array, and we are going to pass multiple driver IDs. Okay, we are going to pass multiple driver IDs. This is, let's say, the signature of the API. And what is the expected response of the API? Expected response is that we should be able to fetch bookings of each and every driver. Booking of, one second. Each, okay, one second, what happened? Each and every driver. Okay, we'll be able to actually fetch bookings of each and every driver. Okay, cool. Now, in the question also, it will be actually given to you how the mapping or the schema mapping looks like. So there is a driver table. There is a bookings table. Okay. There is a bookings table. The driver has a primary key ID. This is the primary key of the driver table. And in the booking table, there is a column DID, which is the foreign key of the driver ID, because driver and booking are related to with a one-to-many relationship. That one driver has many bookings and a booking belongs to a driver. Okay. So this is the database mapping. This is the DB relation that has been given to you. More properties are there, but mainly you are concerned about these two properties. This is the expected query request. And what you are expected to do is, you are expected to fetch bookings of each and every driver whose ID we are actually passing this in an array. A small question might come to your head that, shouldn't this be a post request because we are handling request body? In GET request also, you can access request body. It doesn't matter. As I already mentioned, these are just conventions and these are just recommendations. All the features generally work properly in every type of request. So even a get request, you can actually pass request body. Now, why I'm sending this request in a request body? Because we have to pass an array of IDs. We cannot use URL params. We cannot use query params to pass an array like structure, right? So generally, if you want to pass array like structure, you need this request body type of structure. So that's why this is the signature. But you don't have to care about whether the signature could have been better or not. What you have to care about is that how you are going to implement the backend of this particular, I would say, structure, such that at last you are able to fetch the booking details of each and every driver, and you are able to fetch driver and booking details. You have to also fetch the details of these drivers and then correspondingly their bookings as well. Okay. So this is something that you have to actually solve. And this is a problem you can assume that has been given to you in an interview. Now, what I want you guys to do is pause yourself here and think about what are the implementations you will do. One quick note, what interviewer will be looking into this problem is how will you identify the query structure. Okay, let's say you are using Spring Boot, you're using, let's say, Node.js with Express.js, you're using Ruby on Rails, you're using Django, any framework you can keep in your head, right? And you have to prepare an end-to-end solution. And generally, they will not just expect a theoretical solution from you. They will be expecting an end-to-end solution that you'll be preparing a few tables, and then you'll be preparing an end-to-end API that can actually help you to get this data. And the most crucial part is how you will query this data. That is going to be the most crucial part, because that is the most important thing about this particular problem. Is the question clear to everybody? Is the question clear to everybody? Rajat, the question is that, let's say you have to implement an API. In the API, this is the request structure, and this is the request body in which you have been given driver IDs. What you have to do is you have to figure out how can you write an API that can fetch the data of the drivers as well as bookings. Make sense? We have to fetch driver details and booking where driver ID is this. How will you fetch it? Like, can you show me how will you write a Spring Boot JPA query or something? Any framework you can pick. We are discussing Spring Boot, so I'm emphasizing on Spring Boot. Okay. We can write raw query. You can, maybe if you want, you can write raw query also. Look, I give you that also. You can write raw query also. No problem. But you have to tell me like end-to-end Spring Boot solution altogether as well. Most of you are not able to find anything fishy, right? Is anyone able to find anything fishy in this problem? Anyone who is able to spot anything fishy? Now just think about it. We are already building this model, and we already concluded on one fact. Remember that if we are fetching the driver details, then we want the fetch type of bookings to be what? Lazy, right? We already concluded on this fact that with respect to overall application performance, right? In driver model, bookings should be loaded lazily. Can I say that? We already concluded in this fact. Why? Because there can be different places where you need driver details. Maybe you need driver details for the current booking. Like, let's say a new booking happened for the driver. Now on your customer's application, you want to show the driver details. So that time, maybe you want to fetch the driver details. Now the customer wants to generate the bill copy of their overall ride. At that point, again, you need the driver details. Maybe the driver wants to see what was the last trip and so on. There can be many places where you want to fetch a driver data. Now, whenever you are fetching a driver data, do you want every time all the bookings of that driver to come? No, right? Because for a prolonged period of time, maybe a driver does 10,000 bookings altogether. Why do you want to bring that huge bulky data irrelevantly again and again from your database? Because every query has a cost. If you are querying very bulky data, to prepare that data in the RAM of the database server, it will take some computation power, right? And if you're working on a scale of Uber, every single memory matters, right? So we already concluded on the fact that eager loading is not the solution. We have to load it lazily, right? We have to load it lazily. So this will be the first thing that the interviewer will be expecting, that you tell that there should not be a eager loading between driver and bookings. You have to think with respect to a software engineer, that you are able to understand that, okay, driver details might be separately required a lot of times where you don't need the booking details. Only this API, for just one API, for just one specific API, it doesn't make a lot of sense to make this fetch type eager. So making fetch type eager is not a chance for us. In that case, what can we do? Are you able to understand what I'm trying to say, guys, everyone? Are you guys able to understand what I'm trying to say? We can separately query both the tables. Now that is something that I want to discuss more. Satvik, do you want to come on call, Satvik? I believe that would be a nice discussion. Do you want to come on call? Sure. So let's bring Satvik on call. Da-da-da. One second, I'll ask to unmute. Yeah, Satvik, I've asked you to unmute yourself.
Yes, Sanketa, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So since it is like lazy loading, so we can just separately query that both the tables, like driver table, driver details for two always remains the same, right? So upon getting the result set, we can then join maybe using some Java code.
So like, what do you think the query will look like? What do you think the query will look like? How do you want the query to happen?
Like booking table also contains driver ID, and the driver table also contains the driver ID.
Yes.
So we can separately query the driver ID.
Two queries, one to just get the driver details and one to get the booking details, right? Very good. That's the correct answer. But don't you think looking at this is just the MySQL perspective or the DB perspective? How will you implement it in the Spring Data JPA? That's my question.
Okay.
Like in Spring Data JPA, once you get the driver details, once you get like how the query will look like, once you get the driver details, then what will happen is you will be having maybe a function like in the driver repository, you'll be having a function like find all by ID in, something like this, right? So we'll do select star from driver where ID in, and we will pass an array of driver IDs. Can I say that?
Yes.
Okay. And then once we have a list of drivers, this will technically return us what? A list of drivers.
Yes.
Right. Now, what do you expect is that you expect it to separately make a query, maybe in the booking repository, right? Find all by driver ID in, something like this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Makes sense. This is a valid solution. This is a fair and valid solution. Now, do you like, and this solution works as well. Do you think that while using Spring Data JPA, because of the functionality of lazy loading, if somebody doesn't do this, the solution that you are suggesting, if they don't implement this, do you think they can land up into some kind of problems?
I didn't get you. Can you something like elaborate?
Sorry?
I didn't get you properly. Like voice
Like,
got.
I'm saying that if somebody doesn't implement the second query and tries about something else, right? Just you specifically mentioned that we will be implementing the second query altogether, right?
Yes, yes.
About somebody is not implementing the second query, right? Do you think that if you do not go by this way, any problems can exist in the code? Anything?
Not so sure. Like
Okay, but your solution works pretty well, pretty well. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else who wants to talk about their solution? We have one good solution from Satvik. We have one good solution from Satvik. Anybody else? Okay. Now, interestingly, let me rub all of this. Now, interestingly, if you remember, in lazy loading, what happens is that we actually have a mechanism. We actually, one second. In lazy loading, we have a mechanism such that, let's say, if I go here, right? If let's say we have a driver, let's say we have a JPA method. Let's say we have a JPA method, driver find by ID. Okay. And we have long ID. Okay. Let's say this is the JPA interface method. So let's say at any point of time, if you do driver D is equals to driver repository dot find by ID. And let's say you pass the ID here. Okay. And let's say booking is having lazy loading. Booking is lazily loaded. So what you can actually do is you can do d dot get booking later, d dot get bookings later in order to fetch the booking of this particular driver. Can I say that? Right. Now, one solution that can come up into a lot of people's mind is that, hey, how about we do one thing? How about we do one thing? That is, we have maybe a function like this, list of driver, find all by ID in, and let's say we pass a list of driver ID. We pass the list of driver ID. Okay, something like this. So how the query will look like here? How the query will probably internally look like here? It will be doing something like this. Select star from driver where ID in, and you pass an array of IDs. This is the kind of query that this will execute. Now, a lot of people will think that, okay, if bookings are lazily loaded and we have a list of drivers, then what you can actually do is you can do something like this, right? You can say for driver in drivers. Let's say now you made a call to list of driver as drivers is equals to driver repository dot find all by ID in. Okay, something like this you passed. So now you have a list of drivers, right? And then what you can do is for every driver, you can do driver dot get booking. Driver dot get booking. Now what will happen is for every driver, you will be just making a get booking call. Now, don't you think when we were doing it for one driver, it was a very fancy thing. When we had one driver and we had to call get booking, it was a pretty fancy thing, right? But just think about it. If let's say you have n drivers, this thing can be a disaster. this thing can be a disaster. Why? Because this will lead to something called as N+1 problem. N+1 problem is a very, very famous database problem. In N+1 problem, what happens is, in order to fetch a special type of data, you make N+1 queries. For example, just think about it. If let's say there are N drivers with the following ID, if there were N ID, so you'll be having N unique drivers. You will make one query to fetch all the drivers. This will be one query that you will do to fetch all the drivers. And then now you have a list of N drivers by one query. Now what you will be doing? You'll be looping, right? That means you are going to make N more queries to fetch the booking of these drivers, to fetch the booking of these drivers. Can I say that? Just think about it. That is going to be problematic. That is definitely going to be pretty much problematic, right? Because we don't want to be in a situation, we never ever want to be in a situation where if there were N records that were expected to be fetched, for fetching those N records, we make N+1 queries, right? There can be a pretty more efficient way in order to solve this particular problem, right? Instead of looping on each and every single driver and calling get booking again and again and making N queries here plus one query for getting the list of driver. So instead of making this N+1 queries, we can optimize these queries to maybe 2 or 3, maybe some constant number of queries altogether. First of all, do you guys understand what problem I'm talking about here? Do you guys understand this? It's just like time complexity in SQL. Very good, Somnath. Can you repeat, please, again? Raju, what I'm saying is, do you remember in the last class, we talked about one thing, that let's say, if you have a function like driver find by ID, long ID, you did driver repo.find by ID, you passed ID, you got a driver object. Now, when you get this driver object, you will not get the booking details because booking is lazily fetched. Can I say that, Raju? Now, if you do d.get bookings, now you can get the booking details. Now you can get the booking details. Can I say that? Okay. Now just think about it. In our question, we don't have to work with one driver. We have to work with N number of drivers, where N is going to be the length of the array that is passed in the request body. Yes or no? Yes or no? Right? Okay. Now, just think about it. One way to solve this question can be what? One way to solve this question can be, maybe we have a ORM method. Maybe we have a Spring Data JPA method. Find all the driver by ID, where internally it will execute a query like this. Select star from driver, where ID in, and you pass an array. And you fetched all the driver details inside a list of drivers. Can I say that? You find all the driver details inside the list of drivers. And then what can come up in your head is that, okay, I have a list of drivers. So how about I go to individual driver by looping on individual drivers and then just call driver.getBooking, driver.getBooking, driver.getBooking. So eventually what will happen? You will make one query here, this one query to fetch the details of the driver. And you will be making N queries here to fetch the detail of each and every individual driver booking. And now you will get the final data, but how many queries you executed? You executed N+1 queries. This refers to the very famous N+1 problem in databases. Are you guys able to get this point, everyone? Can we do joins here? Something like find by driver ID and bookings in. Can you write in the form of SQL how that join will look like? Can you write a query how it will look like, Rajat? Rest of the people, can you write a query how in the form of joins it will actually look like? What if I put eager, then get booking happens? Yes, Raju, I already answered that question. That in the last class, we already agreed with the fact that booking should not be eager loaded. Just for one API, you don't want every driver fetching to have eager loading of the bookings. Can I say that? Just think about it. You don't need to make call to this API every time, right? For example, you want to show driver details in a new booking. Why do you need to fetch booking details of the driver to show the name of the driver and the car number of the driver to the user who has just booked the driver? Can I say that? Isn't it? Make sense? Yes. So Rajat is saying select star from drivers, comma bookings, where you have not put the join. Rajat, join to dalo bhai. Driver as D, join bookings as B. On this is where ID in list. Very good, Satvik. Very good. So now let's try to implement this, guys. Let's try to implement this. Okay, just allow me 1 second. Da, da, da. Just one. Just give me a minute, guys. Just give me. I'm getting a call. Just give me a minute. Okay. Okay. Cool. So now let's try to do this. Let's try to execute it. Okay. Now let's do one thing. Let's try to actually implement this and see what can be the potential solutions that we can actually execute. Maybe some raw queries or something that can be there. Let's try to execute that. I have 2 raw queries for both. Yes, Raju, eventually we will come to that solution only. Okay, so this problem is called as N+1 problem. And to solve this, you will eventually come up to 2 raw queries or 2 queries altogether. But there is a very interesting way to implement that in Spring Boot. But let me show you. So now you can see there is a driver model coming up. You can see there is a simple driver model that you have here. Okay. Now, what I want is, let's say there is a booking repository. Okay. Now, you can see we have one record, or you can say where we have one query, find all by driver ID. So you will pass one driver ID and it will correspondingly give you all the corresponding bookings for that driver ID. Okay. Now, what you can actually do here is, maybe you can write a custom query like list of booking, find all bookings by, or we can say find, this is not bookings, this is booking. Okay. Find all by driver ID. And you can see, if you go here, you can see there is a driver in. See, there is a driver in. There is no driver ID in coming up. There is no driver ID in coming up. Let's see. There is just driver in. Okay. So let's go for driver in. Da, da, da. driver in. This one. Okay, driver in. Right. And what we'll do is we have to pass a list of sorry, we have to pass a list of drivers. Okay, this is what we have to actually pass. Let's import this. Okay, so this is what we have to pass. Okay, let's run the code and see if this signature is good for us or not. So if I run the code, okay, you can see the code compiles properly without any problem. Okay, now what we can actually do is just to mimic that API, we can just come up to our service. Okay, so let's first of all do this thing. Let's go to our database. Okay, and let's make a query here, new query console. We'll say select star from driver. Let's see what all drivers do we have. You can see we have 2 drivers. Okay, and if I do select star from booking, so you can see 2 bookings we have. Okay, and in both of the bookings, you can see the driver ID is 1 only. Okay, no problem at all. For now, it's good. Now let's close this. We can go to review service, and let's say we have a list of long, okay, driver IDs is equals to let's import this. Okay, and I guess this is the syntax. We can just say 1L comma 2L. Right, I guess this is how we can make a new array list, right? I guess we have to pass it like this. New 1L 2L. Is that correct? Or maybe we can just Google it. Make a new list of long with default values. Java. I forgot the syntax. Or you can say arrays as list, something like this. So new list, new array list. You can do it like this. So we can say new array list, and we can pass arrays dot as list 1L comma 2L. Okay, this is good. Okay, so we have the driver IDs. Okay, now if you go to the driver repository, you can see we can add a method list of driver. Right, you can add a method list of driver, find all by ID in list of long driver IDs. Okay, so this is the method that we will write, and it should technically give us all the drivers automatically. So let's make it this as a camel case as well. Now what we can do is we can say list of drivers is equals to driver repository dot find all by ID in driver IDs. Okay, this is the query that we want to execute. Let's see what happens. If I run this code, let's see what query it is executing. Okay, so you can see one simple query, select all the driver details from driver where driver in, you can see this array. So this looks good. Two values are passed. So 2 question marks are coming. It looks fine. And now, if I say list, or we should say something like this, list of bookings is equals to booking repository dot find all by driver ID in, and you can pass drivers. Okay. So you can see, let's go inside this method. You can see we are expecting a list of driver. Okay. And copy and paste. Cool. Find all by driver in. Okay. Now let's see what is the query that this is executing. If I run this code, now, interestingly, you will realize too many queries are going on. But don't worry about that. When you will read them, you will understand what's going on. First query is to fetch the driver details. That is absolutely great. The second query, you can see you are fetching the booking details and everything. And if you go forward, what is happening? You are say from booking where driver ID in. Can you see? That's a simple query. What are the remaining queries coming up? You can see in the remaining queries now, because booking also have a driver detail. So it is making one more query about the driver details, and then booking has passenger details as well. So it is making queries for that passenger details as well. But mainly our booking details are fetching up like this. This looks good. But now what if instead of implementing an API like this, somebody tried to use a for loop like this for driver in drivers. Let's say somebody said driver dot get bookings. Okay, you want to do something like this. Okay, and result is ignored. So let's do one thing. We can say list of bookings. I guess we will get bookings is equals to driver dot get bookings. Okay, so let's run this code. Now let's see what happens. If you will run this code, let's see. So we are fetching the driver details. And okay, 1 second. I guess it's not showing us the query. It is not showing us the query that it executed. Driver.get bookings. Okay, let's do one thing. I guess we are not using it, so it's probably not executing it. So let's do one thing. We can say bookings dot for each. We'll go to each and every individual booking, and we can say system system.out.println booking.get ID. Okay, we'll print the booking ID altogether. Okay, so let's now start using the booking. I believe that's why it's not printing the query for us. Let's see. Okay, now I can see it's actually printing the query. And now it's printing the query, and you can see we are getting the details as 1 and 2. This looks good. Now, interestingly, what happened is, if you see what query this is executing, let's copy this query. Let's copy this long query that we have. Okay, copy, and maybe let's open Sublime Text. Okay. And let's do one thing. Let's come up here. Cool. Let's see what's going on. It's kind of like fetching all the details, right? Putting some cases here and there. And then, if you carefully see, it is putting a lot of joins. Left join, booking review, all of these, right? It's putting a lot of joins here. So let's do one thing. If I go to the booking model, okay, if I go to the booking model, the problem is that the passenger details, the driver details, all of these details are also immediately being fetched. That's why it is getting passenger review and all of that. Okay. But if you carefully see what is happening here, it is trying to make a join. And then what's the next thing happening? It's again making a query for the driver. Can you see? It's again making a query for the driver. Can you see that? So this is the next query that it actually executed. Okay. So again, it's making a query for the corresponding driver. And then it is able to fetch the record for you. Okay. Now, let's interestingly do one thing. We'll come back to our review service and let's create a bunch of drivers altogether. So let's go to the query console, database, driver, new query console. Okay. We'll say insert into driver. Okay. What are the columns? We'll fill all of these columns. Okay. And we'll say values. And values we can say now, license number ABC. Okay. Sorry, this is single quotes, ABC, single quotes. And name is, let's say, ABC. Okay. For the timing, let's do it like this. And we can put multiple values like this, right? We can put multiple values. So I'll put comma separated multiple values. Okay. Okay, so 4 drivers we will add. Let's make it DEF. Copy, paste. Let's make it GHI. Copy, paste. And let's make it MNO. Copy, paste. And we don't need to write values again and again. We don't need to write values again and again for MySQL. Cool. And that's it. If you will execute this query, a lot of drivers should be inserted. If I run it, then you can see 4 rows affected. Now, if you do select star from driver, and if you execute this query, you can see a lot of drivers have been inserted. Okay, cool. Now, let's do one thing. Let's create a bunch of bookings for these drivers as well. So I'll say insert into booking. Okay, and we'll insert all of these values probably. Okay, let's close this one. Let's close this one. We'll say values. And what values do we need? Let's try to look at that. So created at and updated at we need. So I'll say now. Okay, booking status we need. So we can say scheduled. Okay, end time you can say now. Start time you can say now, no problem. Okay, then total distance you can say 1. Okay, driver ID. Now this is interesting. Driver ID, let's see, this time I'll pass as 2. Review ID, you don't need to pass. That's not a mandatory parameter altogether. Passenger ID, I can pass as 1. Okay, for the time. And then these values you can change, comma. Let's put more values like this. Okay, so let's say driver ID 2, driver ID 3. Let's make 2 for driver ID 4, 5, 6. Okay, and let's make one more for 6. Okay, cool. And let's insert this data. If I run the code, once again, one constraint is not working for us. Let's just quickly see what's the issue. Oh, driver ID 2 doesn't exist, I guess. So let's make it 3 only. Yeah. So let's execute it again. Okay, once again, 1, 3. Okay, 4 also doesn't exist. 4 also doesn't exist. So let's make it 5 only. Okay. So let's execute again. And this time it worked. This time it worked. Now, if you do select star from booking and execute it, you'll be having a lot of booking data. You can see we have a lot of booking details. Okay, cool. Now let's see what happens. Now I have inserted some data. Now again, let's execute this particular query and see what happens. If you run the code, Also, sorry, my bad. Let's do one thing. Let's put a more driver IDs, right? We need more driver IDs. So let's get some drivers. So we have 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So let's add them. Let's add 12 also so that we have something that is not present. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. We have all of these drivers. Let's run the code now. And now can you see? A lot of queries are being executed. A lot of queries are being executed. For every driver that you find, you are making a join. This query dot get bookings actually fetches the booking by making a join. So it is making a join for every driver because it's a simple thing. You are putting get bookings in a loop. So for each driver, you make a join query. For each driver, you make a join query. That's why for each driver, you make a join query. You get the data. Then again, a join query, you get some data. Again, some join query, you get some data. Again, some join query, you get some data. For this one, you don't find anything, and that's it. So can you see? For fetching the bookings of n drivers, you are making n+1 queries. And that's bad. That's pretty bad. And these kind of mistakes actually happens a lot when you have too much power that these kind of ORMs actually gives us. And there is a highly likely chance that if somebody does this, this code will never see a life in production because in the first review only, this code is going to get rejected. Now, how can we actually solve this? One way to solve this is to have your manual method that you can actually implement here. Other way to solve this can be something very interesting. Okay. So now what Spring Boot does is Spring Boot knows that this is a very common problem. And that's the best part about big frameworks like Ruby on Rails, big frameworks like Spring Boot. They know overall what are some of the very common things that a lot of people have to take care about. And they take care about for that thing for you themselves. So what you can actually do is, if you can come to the driver model, what you can say is that there is an annotation called as @fetch. Now this annotation is different than your fetch type. Your fetch type is lazy or eager. How do you want to fetch these bookings when driver is being fetched? This fetch annotation is for fetch mode. So you can say fetch mode dot subselect. Now let's see what happens. I just added this annotation. We'll talk more about it. But let's see what happens if I do @fetch mode as subselect. Now let's come back and execute this query. Sure, Somnath, don't worry. And now let's see. 1 second. It is still making all of these queries again. So let's just quickly see. Are we missing something? I guess we have to give it as value. 1 second. Just a second. Da-da-da. I guess we have to give it as what? Value is equals to fetch mode dot subselect. Let's see. Somnath, don't worry. I'll repeat. I know this is a complex problem. That's why it's a very famous interview question as well. Okay, this is still making the query. 1 second. If I do this dot join, okay, yeah. Now, if you see, then there are individual joins coming up. Okay. And if I go for select should be the default one. Okay. I'll show you all fetch modes. Just a second. Yeah, I was also thinking it might cache it. So we might have to clean the build for a moment. Okay. So this is here. And now if I do subselect, Da-da-da. Okay, 1 second. Ideally, subselect and select should go different. Probably it is caching the query somewhere. So let me do one thing. Let me clean the build. Gradle W clean. Okay, we have cleaned the build. Let's run it again. Da-da-da. Okay, 1 second. Why it is doing like this? Da-da-da. Okay, 1 second. Let's just quickly Google fetch mode subselect. Not working. Let's see. Maybe we are missing something very simple. Da-da. So we mentioned fetch mode as subselect. Okay. If one lazy collection or single value proxy has to be fetched, Hibernate will load all of them. Rerunning the original query in a subselect. This way, this works as a batch fetching. So ideally, this should execute something like this. Fetch mode.subselect should execute something like this, a nested query. But let's see why it's not working for us. Why is it caching or something? Da-da-da. Hibernate fetch strategies example, fetch mode explained by example. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Da-da-da. You can see we have to just say fetch mode as subselect. Okay. And we have to place it at the one side. So you can see this is what will happen. And ideally, this query should become like this. We can also give a batch size, but we'll come to that. We'll come to that. Let's see. Are we missing something? Fetch type we have done as lazy. This is good. Map driver. Let's go to bookings once. Are we doing anything in the bookings? Let's go to booking.java. And we have many to one here. This is good. Oh, we have not kept it as set. We have not. Oh, my bad. Yep. We have to keep it as a set, I guess. 1 second. Let's try with the set. And we have to convert this to set, right? Java.dll set. We can cast it. I guess there is a method to directly convert it, right? Driver.this. 1 second. Once again, let's see what they have actually kept here. You can see they have kept as a set only. They have kept as a set only. So let's come up here inside driver. And instead of list, let's make it a set. Let's make it a set. Okay. Is equals to new hash set, right? We have something like hash set. Okay. And let's import this. Okay. This should be good. This should be good. We have a set here. And now, okay, we can see now this is good. Let's try to run it now. So I'll show you why we kept as a set. I guess that's the syntax, because you can see here also they're expecting as a set only. No, set also didn't work. Set also didn't work. Let's see. Fetch mode we have kept as subselect. That is done. What's the spelling there? Driver subselect. This is good. This is good. We can avoid making a hash set also. We're missing something very small. Let's see. We have fetch mode. We have set defined. Let's see what else. Not working. JPA. Let's see. Fetch mode subselect not working. Okay. So I guess they have the similar kind of problem. Let's see. We have defined this as service. That is okay. Let's say you have a parent entity with some collection annotated with one to many, fetch type lazy, and fetch with. I came up with the following around. With a single query collection of parent IDs, all the necessary filter applied. This. Do not join fetch. This doesn't explain why the problem is coming. Let's see. What do we have to do here? So you can see there is a department class. We have a fetch mode as subselect. And we have a one-to-many mapped by department. And inside department, inside employee, you have a department. Oh, I guess we have to mention it both ways once again. I don't think so, although, but let's try. Okay. So let's come up to driver and let's mention it as fetch type lazy. Let's run it again. By the time, let's see anything else that we need. So now you can say final this get employees. So ideally, this should execute a code like this. You can see we have done the same thing. Why it's not working for us? We just need to do department.get employees. So in our case, we have to do driver.get bookings. And that's it. No, this is also not going to work well. Is it caching or something? One second. Let me restart my IntelliJ session. Just quickly clean it up and restart my IntelliJ session. Ideally, it should work directly. Let's see. And let's do one more thing. Let's do one more thing. Okay. Let's do one more thing. Is there any fetch type eager somewhere? Is there any eager fetching mentioned for anything? So we have fetch type lazy, all good. Booking, we have fetch type passenger. This is good. This is good. Booking status we have. Let's go to review once. Do we have any fetch type? No, this is not there. And for passenger, let's see. One to many default fetch type is already lazy. I guess we had some passenger review, right? This is coming from review. And in booking review, let's see what query it's because probably it is trying to do this because there is some eager fetching that is mentioned. That can also be one case. So it's making the join query. Okay, let's see what all things it is fetching. It is passenger review and everything, right? It can be a case because of the passenger review. So let's do one thing. Let's add a fetch type dot lazy here. Okay. There can be a chance that to fetch this review. Oh, because this is a one-to-one case. Oh, you can see this is a one-to-one case. So here the fetch type must be eager by default. Now let's run it. I 99% think that should be the issue. Otherwise, it will be a conflict, right? No, still this thing, but let's see. Is there anything else also? There might be something else also. Now I can see there is passenger also. So let's go here. Probably let's make passenger also. Fetch is equals to fetch type lazy. Okay. This is good. And let's go to the driver. Is there anything in the driver? No, we should be good with the driver. Because subselect only like this works with one lazy fetching, right? We are still making a join. Let's see why it's now making a join. Oh, start time distance from booking this. Okay, that's not making a join now. Let's see. We have a subselect set Review service. Let's make it a final maybe. Let's make it a final. So it has stopped putting joins, but it is still making multiple queries. It is still making multiple queries. Let's see. Anybody who is able to spot anything? Or we can do one more thing. Let's try to do this. Let's comment this out. Sorry. Let's comment this out. And let's say we say system.out.println driver.get bookings.size. Let's see what are the size of the bookings we are getting. Let's see. We are making individual queries. We are still making individual queries. What should be missing? What is missing, guys? Let's see. Anything specific we are missing? So let's see again. We have a class here. For our case, this is driver. One-to-many mapping, we have a driver with bookings. Let's just quickly verify that. So you can see private set of bookings. This is good. Fetch mode.subselect. Fetch mode.subselect. Okay. Because when I do join, then so it is changing. With join, it is changing and it is behaving in the correct way for join. Subselect, it is not behaving in the correct way. Let's quickly check. You can see for join, it is indeed behaving in the correct way. It is expected to have a result like this. But why with subselect? What is not going well here? Okay, let's go further. Let's go further. We have an employee class, which in our case is booking, a many-to-one relationship with this. Okay. Let's go up. Anything specific? No. So this is already we are doing. This is already we are doing. Let's see. Fetch mode.select, fetch mode.join, fetch mode.subselect. So we have to do one-to-many, fetch mode.subselect. We can use subselect with collections. This. Okay. Subselect not working. Spring data JPA. Okay. Let's do one thing. So there is a Spring JPA buddy. One second. Dog, schema, table, parent, entity. Just a second, guys. Mapper declaration. Okay, database versioning, reversing. Okay, let's close this for now. Let's see. The subquery is not properly formed. This check the database JPA team के साथ ही देखने के लिए बोल दिया ना तो. But let's see. Customer dot find all. This. Anyone who is able to spot, can you guys try once on your end? Maybe again, last time like issue might be happening. Can you once try on your end by making the fetch mode as subselect, this one, and going to the review service and try to make a call like this. Maybe call it like this or call it like this and see if we are able to find something. Maybe it's happening like the last class, some very small issue is there that we might be overlooking. You can see subselect works. Why it's not working for us? Let's see. Where is our booking? This is booking. We have made everything lazy as well. Uh, Service. Anybody tried on their end? Anybody tried on their end? Trying? Okay. Till that time, let's see what I can do. Driver dot get bookings. Okay. So let's see. Use subselect to avoid N+1 queries. Okay. You can see subselect can be used to avoid N+1 problem in Java. Okay, let's open this. Okay, what do we have to do? You can see we have this. We will change it to fetch joins with this batch chain. Batch size, this is this batch size. And we have to make fetch type as lazy, fetch mode as subselect, and it should be good. This is review service. Let's see. Because we have a solution, we at least have a solution with this part, find all by driver in, but I wanted to show this fetch mode also so that things can look nicer. Let's do one thing. Just a second. There might be an issue with this, but let's try it out. We have it subselect, right, already. Driver, what is the subselect? Okay. Okay, yeah. Now it's working. Working. Can everybody see that there is a single query that is being executed? Can everybody see this? Okay, so what was the problem? I'll tell you the problem. Okay. So now you can see we are able to execute a single query. Let me show you actually here. Okay. So let's go step by step once more. So initially what we did was we had a problem of N+1 queries. What was N+1 query problem? That to get the bookings of all the drivers, we were iterating on each and every single driver and getting the bookings. Can I say that? Who was asking? Somnath, are you able to get this point? We were going to each and every individual driver and getting the bookings. Can I say that? Okay, now we don't even need, I guess, the set and everything. List should be fine. List should be fine here. And one second, driver repository. No. Blah, blah, blah. Driver. Let's make it a list. Okay. Now, do you guys understand? Do you guys understand one solution that we had here? This one. Find all by driver in. So in the booking repository. So in the booking repository, you can see we mentioned one method, which was a custom interface method that we said that, okay, what we are going to do, we are going to pass a list of drivers and you are going to implement a query, find all by driver in. Now Spring Data JP will automatically execute this query. And now what will happen is there will be two queries only. If I just comment out everything here and I just open everything here. Okay, this was a custom implementation that we did. If you run this code, you can see there are only two queries that are being executed. Can I say that? There are only two queries that are being executed, and the second one is an inquiry. This was a custom implementation that we wrote. Now, what Spring actually does is, Spring gives us an internal method as well to actually implement this solution for N+1 problem. So instead of making N+1 queries, we are only going to make two queries. So instead of implementing it ourselves, what we did is, inside the driver model, we have to mention fetch mode as subselect. So there are multiple fetch modes. One is a select mode, that is the default mode. If you don't mention anything, let's say if you don't mention any fetch mode, and now you execute the query, let's see what happens. You can see individual queries are being executed, right? Now, if you don't want this, what you can do is you can make fetch mode as subselect. Now, what subselect does is that in subselect, it is not going to make n more queries. Instead, it will just make the second query, just like how we were doing it. It is going to just make the second query, and that's it. So let's see what is the second query looking like. So if I now execute it, you can see now there are only two queries. And if I copy the second query, paste it here, you can see what's happening. In the second queries, it gets the details of the driver, right? It gets the detail of the bookings from booking table where driver ID in, and inside in, it is making just one more query to fetch all the driver IDs, because you can see we are making a call from what? We are making a call from driver object. So it will automatically do what? For this whole for loop, it is just going to execute one query where it is going to fetch all the booking details within one query, where it will implement a subselect. Subselect means a subquery of select. So you can see it's a nested query, right? It's a select inside a select, right? And with this just one more query, it will just fetch all of the data. And for that, you don't have to mention any kind of, you can say, custom method or anything. All you have to do is just go to the one-to-many model to the one side, which is the main side, and mention fetch mode as subselect. And all you have to do is, wherever you are actually using this, you are fetching the driver details, and then using the driver details, you are making the booking call. You have to mark that method as transactional. Now, what is this annotation transactional? So as the name suggests, if you see transactional annotation, you can see transactional annotation specified semantics of transactions on a method. That means whatever queries are going to execute in this particular method are going to be part of one complete transaction. Either everything will execute or nothing will execute. So we have to execute this as a part of one single transaction that Spring expects from us. And then what will happen is, within two queries only, instead of making n more queries, within two queries only, we will be able to fetch all of the data. Are you guys able to get this point? Is that numeric value is booking ID corresponding to driver ID? Where you are saying, Somnath, do you want to come on call? Let's bring Somnath on call.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Somnath.
Yeah, I'm asking that whenever we are running, that numeric value is coming, means we are executing as a subquery here.
1 second, let me run it.
Yeah, so I'm asking
Numeric
that.
values?
Yeah, that value is that value is the booking details corresponding to the driver ID.
Because for each booking, I have done a
Yeah.
for each, right? It's just printing the booking ID.
Yes, yes. That is only I'm asking.
Okay.
Yes. And Sangeeta, it is means executing just like a subquery, no?
Yeah.
One query
The
under one.
select inside a select. It's a select
Yeah,
inside a
select,
select.
select.
Just think about it. If you have
So
1,000
first,
sorry.
means first it will means first we have to write the query for the booking details. Under that we have to write the query for the driver details.
No, that's the best part. You don't have to make any queries. You don't have to write any queries like custom queries. For
Mhm.
example, if you go to booking repository, you can remove this. You can actually remove this. Okay. No need to write anything. All you have to do
Mm.
is fetch the details of the driver normally.
Okay.
Normal fetching method is already present, right?
Mm.
And then you just loop over the drivers and call driver.getBooking. Remember this same method we executed because it is lazily loaded. Can I say that? This is a
Yes.
lazily loaded method, right?
Mm.
But just think about it. If one driver.getBookings make a query, if I execute this code in a for loop, this will make n queries, right?
Yes.
So that's what get replaced if you just make the fetch mode as subselect, right? The moment you make fetch mode as subselect
Mm.
and you execute this whole function as a part of one transaction, what will happen is, doesn't matter whether you have put it in a for loop or not, Spring Boot will automatically manage it. And instead of making SQL query calls again and again in a loop, it will just make one call and fetch the details of the booking. And post that, you will be able to do whatever you want here. Are you able to get this point?
Yes. And one more question I have. I don't know. That is, I think maybe silly question also.
No, no, no. Just tell me. Just throw it.
But I'm asking that suppose whenever we are storing the driver ID and the booking details, we can store it as a hash map. Suppose driver ID is one corresponding to the one driver ID, we can store the booking details key value pair. So
Hmm.
whenever we need to fetch according to the driver ID, we will just go to that hash map and check whether the key is matching, and if the key is matched,
Yes.
then the corresponding value will
Yes. But that
print.
will be a in-memory DB, right? If you restart the server, that DB will be gone.
Okay, so in that process also n+1 times it will execute.
But it will not exist. So just think about it. Now you are
Mm.
maintaining a hash map. Hash map
Yeah,
is already fast and it is in your RAM. Database is not in your RAM. Can I say that?
yeah.
Database is stored
Mm.
in the disk. So SQL, why
Yes.
SQL query is expensive? Because you have to go to the disk and fetch the data. Why
Oh,
looping over hash map is still okay? Because it's in your RAM.
yes. Yes. Means I just thought I would like that
Yeah, makes
programming,
sense.
competitive coding.
Interestingly, what you suggested is nothing but caching. Interestingly, what you
Oh,
suggested is nothing but
mm,
caching. Because in caching, what do you do? If let's say there are some drivers for whom details are very frequently fetched, you can
mm.
cache their details. And the cache that you are suggesting is an in-memory cache.
In memory, yes.
Make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Make sense, everyone? Okay, and now let's do one thing. If now you go to booking, and now let's remove the fetch type lazy from review. Let's remove the fetch type lazy from review. And now let's rerun it again. Remember, I made fetch type as lazy for everything, right? Can you see? Now also this is working fine. Make sense? Now also it is working fine. You don't need to make fetch type lazy or anything as such. See? So it will make the whole join query, but still only a single query altogether. But the moment you make subselect as select, if you make it as select, then it will not make one query, it will make multiple queries. Let me show you. You can see now we are getting multiple queries. So are we getting multiple queries because we don't? Yes, Satvik. So subselect expect you to keep it in one single transaction. Okay. So that's why we have to mention the method as @transactional. It's a simple annotation that is already given that will execute the query in one single transaction. We'll talk more about transactions also later, but yeah. Got it, guys? Can you show the join again? Sure. the sub-select join, right? So you can see currently it is select. Now if I change it to sub-select, and let's say stop and rerun. You can see now again we have a single query. If I copy this query and paste it here, this is the query that it is executing. You can see it is putting whatever joins and everything it is required, but it will just do one single join. Can you see it? This is going to do one single join. And then at last in select this sub select. So there is a nested select query coming up. Are you guys able to get this point, guys? The join is going on for the reviews. The join that it is happening, it is for the reviews. Time for questions, guys. Time for question. I want some good questions here. Time for questions, everyone. Now, can you see? Now we have two ways to solve the N+1 query problem. Either you implement your own method, or what you can do is you can use the fetch mode as subselect, and that should do the work for you. Are you able to get this point? Are you able to get this point, guys? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Everyone, I want a quick yes or no in the chat. If you want a quick revision, we can have a quick revision. If you want to ask question, this might be a good time to ask question. Raju says yes. Yes for quick revision. Okay, let's have a quick revision. Oh, you meant fetch mode as join. Yeah, sure. Guys, just a minute. I'm gonna have the revision, but just make the fetch mode as join. Now you can see multiple queries are coming up. Satvik? Only sub-select will help you to make a single query. Okay. So let's start talking about it again. Everybody understand the N+1 problem. First of all, tell me, is there anyone who doesn't know what is the N+1 problem? Anybody who doesn't know what is the N+1 problem, guys? Everybody knows the N+1 problem, yes or no? Everybody knows it, say a yes. If no, then say a no. Everybody knows the N+1 problem? Okay. Now there are two ways to solve your N+1 problem. One way is the one that Satvik also suggested and you guys also suggested. What did you guys suggest? You guys suggested that how about we execute one query to fetch the driver details, and in one query you do something like this. Select star from booking join driver on booking dot driver id equals to driver dot id, where booking dot driver id in, and you pass the end. Remember, you guys suggested a query like this. In this way, what will happen is you will not be fetching individual bookings for every driver. You will not be doing select star from booking where driver ID is equals to this. Select star from booking where driver ID is equals to this. Select star from booking where driver ID is equals to this. You will not be doing that. Instead, you will be doing a join. Can I say that? This is one single way. This is one way to achieve our solution, everybody. And don't you think it's a pretty simple query? It looks like a pretty simple query. So simple queries, so we can handle by Spring Data JPA. What we can do is we can just say list of booking, find all by driver in, find all booking by driver in, and you pass a list of drivers. Can I say that? This is one solution. This is one solution. Okay. And you can see it is working as well. For example, if I go to review service, I comment out everything. I comment out everything. I paste this, I uncomment it here. So you can see what is happening. I have a bunch of driver IDs. Then I first of all fetch all the drivers. Can I say that? I'm fetching all of the drivers. Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? I'm fetching all of the drivers. And then this is the join query that we wrote. Find all booking by driver in this list. If I execute this code, you can see. One second. What did I do? Oh, my bad, my bad. Let's remove this fetch mode. We have not started with fetch mode yet. So let's remove the fetch mode. Okay. And let's run it again. My bad. I actually left the fetch mode there. If you will be having a fetch mode, then doesn't matter. Okay. Okay. Now, can you see? We are having one single query, yes or no? Now you can see we are having one single query and we have successfully solved the N+1 problem, yes or no, guys? This is good. Anybody having any question with the first approach? This was the same approach that Satvik also suggested. Okay. And this is pretty obvious and easy as well. Okay. Maybe what I can do is I can just pay like, okay, but you can execute it and no need to paste it. This is simple. Now, what Spring Boot says that this is a very common problem. And the problem will occur in a scenario. The problem will occur in a scenario when you do not use this custom query. And maybe you have a new intern, pretty noob, right? What the intern can do is maybe the intern will loop on the driver list and again do driver.getBooking. Now, if you do driver.getBooking once, it execute once SQL query. But if you call driver.getBooking in a loop, it will execute this SQL query in a loop. Can I say that? Can I say that? And technically, that is what it is happening as well. If I run the code, that's what happening as well, right? So what Spring Boot says that? Spring Boot says that it's a very common problem. And you don't have to write your own custom query as well for this. Because currently, though, it was very simple. Let's say you have 4 or 5 models. In that 4 or 5 model scenario, it can become pretty cumbersome to make a query like this. Otherwise, you might have to write your own raw query. Too much hassle. What it says that, what Spring Boot says that, or Spring Data JP says that, if you have a model and you have this one-to-many list where you have fetch type as lazy, wherever you are mentioning the fetch type as lazy, add an annotation fetch, which is going to mention the fetch mode. Now, fetch mode will tell you that do you want to individually fetch all the driver booking one by one, or you want to fetch them in a batch. So you can say fetch mode dot subselect. Subselect means you want to fetch them in a batch. Now, if you run this code, and once you have done this fetch mode, one more thing that you have to do is just mark this function wherever you are executing the driver as well as get booking call. Just mark this function as transactional. What it will do is, now if you run it, it will not make one by one queries. And instead, it will just execute 2 queries. One to fetch the drivers and one to fetch the bookings. Are you guys able to get this point? Any other fetch mode will not work. Only subselect is going to help you in this case. Somnath says, where do we need to add the transactional annotation? You need to add it to the same, like all of this is happening inside a function, right? Wherever the function is, where the actual action is happening, where you are actually making the DB calls, mark that as @transactional. Got it? So ideally inside your service, you can do this. You can say I'm doing it in the review services run method. Make sense, guys? Is the N+1 problem making sense to everybody? So now you know about fetch types, lazy or eager fetching. You now know about custom SQL queries. And now you know about fetch modes that can help you to avoid any kind of N+1 queries. Right? The for loop is still getting bookings, but at that time is executing the query in a single batch. Akash, what is transaction in databases? Do you know that? Okay. So transaction help us to make sure that whatever are the queries are together executed, right? So here also what is happening is sometimes in different environment, what can happen is individual queries are run in different context. We don't want to be into that situation where both of the queries are run in different context. That's why we are going to run it in one single transaction. The moment you execute it in one single transaction, the driver fetching and the booking fetching, all of this happens in one single transaction. And that is required for the fetch mode. Are you able to get this point? So now, if you are not using fetch mode, then also you can keep the function as transactional, right? If you're not using fetch mode, then also you can keep the function as transactional. But the thing is, now you have transactional and fetch mode defined as subselect. So when you will call driver.getBooking, it is not going to make multiple API calls, or I would say multiple database calls. It is going to just make one SQL query request and fetch all of the booking details. Internally, it might be using Saurabh, but manually it doesn't expect us to do anything there. Everybody, is this point making sense? For every fetching of one-to-many relationship, we need to use subselect. Guys, this can be a question that can come to your mind that now, for every fetching of one-to-many relation, do we need subselect? No. Whenever you have a situation of N+1 query, Pawan Patil, whenever you have a situation where N+1 query can come up. For example, let me give you an example of N+1 queries. A very interesting example can come up. Let's say you are implementing your Quora app. In the Quora app, if you know, 1 second, what is happening to everything on my iPad? In the Quora app, let's say you have a question. Okay. Now the question can have many answers. The question can have many answers. Answer number 1, answer number 2, answer number 3. And every answer can have many comments. C11, C12, C13, C21, C22, C23, C31, C32, C33. Can I say that? Pawan Patil, this can be a situation. Now, I expect, let's say, you to write a query that if I give you a question ID, you fetch all of the details of the question, that is all the answers and all the comments in those answers. Are you able to get this point? Now, what can be one approach that you can think of? Okay, let's do one thing. Let's get all the answers. So let's say you have find all by question ID, and let's say you pass the question ID. Okay, and this will give you a list of answers. Can I say that? This can be one method. Now, when you are fetching the answers, what about the questions? So one way would be that once you have the list of answers, you say answer in answers, answer dot get comment. Right? Somebody might be able to do this, and this can cause N+1 query. So what you can do is you can mention comment fetch mode as subselect. Are you able to get this point? Because not every time, now just think about, now you can come up with a question that, okay, why not make it eager? Why not make the loading type instead of lazy as eager? Because lazy loading is causing the N+1 problem. Why not make it eager? Because maybe not every time you need all the comments for all the answers for a given question, right? Maybe sometimes you just need the answers of the question and not the comments. Sometimes maybe you just need the first 2 comments, not all the comments. What it will do, it will just bring all of the comment data along with all of the answer if you ask for a question. That's too much to ask for. Are you able to get this point, Pawan? So you need to use subselect whenever there is a chance of N+1 queries to come up. In a production database, I have never seen anybody implementing N+1 queries because it's a bad practice. Make sense, guys? Now, you will encounter these situations when you will implement your own application. That's why I'm asking you to implement that Quora app. If you'll implement that Quora app, things will get super clear in front of you. Are you able to get this point? Any questions from anyone? Any questions from anyone? I'll commit this code. I'll maybe commit this code here. साथ में we will be doing that. We will be doing that. जब हम लोग multiple tables का join करेंगे, we will be doing that. But generally, it is recommended कि if you are going beyond 3 tables, you write your own subquery. That's the generally the recommended way. Because 3 query के ऊपर फिर ORM is going to do too much for you, and then debugging and everything can become very cumbersome. Like मैं जब interview bit में था, we used to do like 7-8 table joins, और वहां पे Ruby on Rails था. Trust me, Ruby on Rails might be even more powerful than this also, but तब भी हम लोग raw query लिखते थे, क्योंकि 7-8 टेबल को ORM से ज्वाइन करना बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स हो जाता है और फिर उसकी डीबगिंग बहुत मुश्किल हो जाती है. Can we say this is applicable in case someone comments on answer and comment on comment? Like that is the case of cascading, no? But N+1 can exist. Let's say you do not have comment on comment, you just have comment on answer. Then also N+1 query can come up. It's a coding pattern. It's a coding pattern, right? Subquery here means for loop, right? No, Satvik. Subquery doesn't mean for loop. Guys, okay. Subquery doesn't mean for loop. Subquery means that you execute this query, you get a list of driver ID, and then you just pass it here. It's not a for loop, guys. Just FYI, in most of the DBs, for loops separately exist. This is, you can in the worst case consider this as 2 queries also in the worst case, but it's not like n queries. It's not that, because you just fetch the list of driver and then feed it. That's it. Okay, you might be getting this impression of for loop because if you write too much nested queries, too many nested queries, then it can be problematic, right? If one query is executed more than once. But here, one query is not executed more than once. The internal query is executed once, and then the data of it is passed to the external query. That's it. Got it, Satvik? Okay, so I wanted to discuss one more thing today. I mean, implementation wise. Like implementation wise, if I want this query to come up, then I have to write a for loop. Is that what you were trying to say? Yeah, that's correct. Guys, if you want this query to happen, then you can write this particular code. And this type of code is generally which we are used to writing, right? Just think about it. Remember your good old data structure algorithm days. In data structure algorithm, probably you don't have a database. So what you will be having probably a hash map, the same thing that Somnath was mentioning. And then on that hash map, you will loop over and get the details of every booking. Can I say that? This is the kind of code that we are very fond of writing, right? So we can still write this code with proper optimization altogether. So solving the N+1 problem is an optimization problem altogether. Any more questions, guys? Did you guys understand a good problem today? And this is a very frequently asked question as well. Like you can find tons and tons of articles just talking about N+1 problem. You can see situation when for a single request for fetching users, we make additional requests for getting information of each and every single user. Can you see this? Okay, so I wanted to discuss about a better way to manage your databases. So currently you can see we are doing a lot of things. We need to do a lot of cleanup in this repo because there's a lot of sample code coming up. So we might do some cleanup. But what you must be able to see is that to manage our database, what we do is we create classes. Yes or no, guys? we create classes, and inside our application.properties, we have this update, DDL auto as update. So it automatically updates it. This is not the right way to do these things, because in a production scenario, multiple people might be playing with same classes. Now just think about it. 5 people deleted some attributes, 5 people added some attributes. What will be the final structure of the table? Don't you think? Just think about it. What will be the final structure of the table if 5 people are managing the same class? Some deleted some attributes, some added some attributes, some change the type of the attribute. How eventual database table is going to be managed? That is a very significant problem in SQL tables, and we are going to solve it elegantly. Let's not talk about it today because I believe you have a lot to do already. I want everybody to try the Quora app, right? And in the next class, we'll start talking about something called as migrations. Make sense? Everyone? Cool, cool. So do try your Quora app. It's having all the things that you need. So make sure you try it out and give your genuine effort. We're going to meet soon in the next set of session where we will continue our discussion on Spring. Till then, take care, guys. Bye-bye. Have a lovely week ahead and keep coding.